Welcome back everyone. By now you should have cut out all of your dress pattern pieces. So I've actually laid down a towel on this table here because we're going to start with doing one side of our dress as a no-sew dress, and then the other side I will actually do on the sewing machines and show you how to do a more finished version of the dress. So once again, for this one we are just going to need some of this iron-on fabric bonding tape. So yeah, you can get that at your local haberdashery store. And also you're going to need an iron, and the iron, set it to whatever your synthetic setting is. I've got a polyester setting on here, so that's the one that I'm going to be using. Okay, so to start with, lay the back portion of your dress down, and you should also have your little safety pin marking out where we want to leave a gap on one side. So with the no-sew version, that's where I will show you how to actually create that little gap. Okay, so first things first, we are going to start by folding over the neckline hem just on the back, just so that we can give ourselves a nice sharp line. So cut yourself a piece of the tape. Okay, so we are just going to put our fabric bonding tape right up against the edge and then just fold that one over like so. You can actually shape it a little bit to give it some rounding, and then using your iron we're just going to iron it flat until the glue melts. Just like that. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see that, but that will just give you a nice sort of clean edge on your neckline. So of course, like I said, I'm only doing a half because I'm going to do sewing on the other side. Okay, so moving on from there, whoops, we are going to do the shoulder seam. So with our back panel laid out like this, we are just going to cut a piece of tape that will fit along that shoulder seam there. And then taking our front panel, so we're going to match our front panel armhole to armhole like that, and then shoulder seam to shoulder seam. So just across the top there, and we're just going to iron that one down. So that's just completely flat. Yeah, no rolling anything over. We'll trim it all down once that's done. Now that we have done our shoulder seam, we will move on to doing the down the side section here of the dress. Just remembering that we are wanting to leave a little gap here for our cord to go through. So we will just pop a small section of tape running from the right in the corner here of the armpit. Excuse the aeroplane going overhead. And then we are just going to cut another section of tape, and it will just run straight down the length here. So just remembering that we're leaving a 5 centimetre gap in between those two sections of tape. So now we have ironed down the shoulder seam just underneath the armpit, left a 5 centimetre hole, and then all the way down the outside of our dress. If you were doing the no-sew version, then you would do the same on the other side. So just basically putting the other front panel lying across the top and just doing that. Okay, again. So now that we have run all the way down the outside, we are going to turn it inside out, and we're just going to double check the integrity, I guess, of our seams here, making sure that we've definitely glued all the way along. Okay, that all looks pretty good. And we have our little gap here for threading through. Now, with dealing with this little gap, just make sure that that remains neat and doesn't thread. We will take out our pin, and using some of our tape, just roll back each one of those edges and iron them down, just to give it a nice neat line. So I'll just do one side at a time. Fabulous. So yeah, that's just going to give us a slightly neater hole. Now that we've ironed on our bonding tape at our shoulder seam and down the side of our dress, just leaving our 5 centimetre gap, we will lay our dress back down, and we've checked our seams. We will lay our dress back down wrong sides out, so that means that you've actually got that bulky tape edge out at the moment. Okay, and then taking our bishop sleeve. Now our bishop sleeve is the right way round, so it's got the neat seam on the outside here. We're going to take that, and opening up our dress front panel here, we're just going to slide that sleeve all the way through until it lines up with the opening of the armhole. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. So that has run all the way through, and now we're just going to pull it back until it's perfectly aligned with our armhole. So the shoulder is going to come right up to the shoulder seam, and our full underarm seam here is going to align down in the armpit. Okay, now in order to iron this down, I recommend doing it in two individual pieces of tape. So taking one side, ironing that down, then coming across to the next side and ironing that down. So I will do that now. So first of all, I would suggest starting with the back side. Go down to your very first layer, and then find your the seam from your sleeve, and then lay that down, and just working really slowly from one corner. Just move your tape up a little bit, iron it down, moving all the way around the outside of the two sleeves, making them join together. Now, just always be really careful with your irons that you don't iron your fingers. I'm just moving a little bit along at a time. Okay, so now that you have gone all the way around the outside of the sleeve edge and attached it to the back panel and the front panel holes that were there, if we turn it inside out, we should have a nice sleeve attached, and we do. So that all looks pretty good. There are a couple of little puckers. I think that's just going to happen because, you know, this is the first time I've ever worked using this iron only tape. So I think if you're super careful, maybe even pinning it down as you go and maybe using weights, you might get a much neater line than I have. But this is really just for illustration purposes. So yeah, so we have got a sleeve attached. One thing I probably would recommend now is to go and just gently trim along the seams a little bit, just taking it down slightly but leaving plenty of the glue that's holding. And I would also make sure that you sort of go along and give each one of those seams just a bit of a gentle tug, making sure that you haven't missed any bits. All right, now that we've done that, we will look at making the sash ties and doing the outside seam. Great. So with our sash, what we're going to do is we will fold it over like so. And then I'm just going to run a section of the bonding tape down along the outside edge. So I will do that. So once you have ironed the two edges of your sash together, you should have one pointy end and one flat end down the other end. And I would probably suggest cutting midway through the glue piece, just to give yourself a very sort of neat and sealed edge along the side of your sash. This is not going to be necessarily a perfect dress because it is just the no-sew version, so I can't guarantee it's going to hold up even in a wash, but it should certainly see you through the day. And okay, so I will just quickly trim that down slightly. And okay, so I've trimmed my sash piece now, and that all looks nice and neat. And now we are going to attach it to the front panel. So we're going to roll over the outside seam of the crossover section and glue that one down until we get to the sash point, and then we'll attach the sash point, and then we're going to go right down the outside of that front panel as well. Okay, as we do the outside seam, you need to make sure that your costume is turned inside out again, so that the seams are all pointing in on the inside, because you don't want to have an ugly looking seam pointing to the outside. So just always make sure that before you do start ironing anything down, that everything is going to be pointing in the same direction. Okay, so I've just ironed along the edge here. So I guess if I pop my arm in here, with a bit of luck, I'll be able to sort of show you there. So yes, that will give you your nice neat line. And here at this point is where we're going to attach the tie. You are going to want to make it fairly secure. So I suggest cutting maybe 3 pieces of tape and forming a rectangle coming in off the edge here. Once again, just double checking that you've got your costume wrong way around, so that you're moving the seam onto the inside so that nothing's going to be showing on the outside. And then taking your tie here, Okay, and so we have now attached our tie to the edge here. So, as you can see here, you may want to trim off just that little bit that's sort of sticking out there. So we'll just take that bit off. Wonderful. Okay. All right, and now that we've done that, we will run a seam right down the outside edge. If you are just wanting to create the dress without the pixie hem, you would then go all the way around the bottom as well. After I have done the sew version on the other side, I will also show you how to do the pixie hem so that it is sealed as well. Okay, so I will just quickly run this seam, and then I will move on to doing the sew version. Thank you.